Welcome to Golden Gems. Today we are going inside the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the 1,200-year-old technical manual for the only journey you cannot rehearse. We begin this forensic investigation by fundamentally redefining the word Bardo. Look, it is not some mystical afterlife. In the Tibetan language, bar means movement or flow, and do signifies a stepping stone. So a bardo is actually an island of stillness within a stream of movement. Think of it like that precise gap between one thought and the next. This foundational text treats death not as a singular, catastrophic event, but as a highly navigatable, precise neurological territory, complete with specific geography and decision points. Section 1. The 2026 Scientific Convergence. We begin our audit in the modern era, investigating exactly why cutting-edge science is suddenly validating an ancient manuscript. Right now, in 2026, we're seeing neuroscientists, virtual reality researchers, and hospice workers simultaneously converging on this exact text to map the dissolution of human identity. It's fascinating because an 8th century document is consistently outperforming the very institutions that previously dismissed it. To put that into perspective, modern therapeutic VR environments are currently utilizing this 8th century consciousness map to navigate radical ego death. Researchers have realized that the instructions for navigating identity dissolution in the Bardo are directly applicable to the psychological challenges of extended virtual reality. It proves the architecture holds up absolutely anywhere the self is systematically disassembled. Section 2. Encrypting the Consciousness Map. Let's examine how this builds from its origin as a heavily encrypted survival mechanism in ancient Tibet. The Tantric master Padmasambhava and the advanced practitioner Yeshit Sogil didn't just write a book. They literally engineered a cryptographic data preservation system called Terma. Recognizing the political instability of the 8th century, they encoded these consciousness technologies in Dakini script and concealed them deep within the rock of Gumpodar Mountain to protect them from political purges. The logic was simple: if the libraries burn, the mountains keep the data. 6 centuries later, a 15-year-old boy named Karmo Lingpa followed encoded coordinates and retrieved the manual from the stone. Section 3. Colonial Theft and Distortion. We absolutely must examine the 1919 colonial extraction that completely distorted the global understanding of this technology. Operating through the mechanics of the British Empire, the American anthropologist Walter Yilling Evans Wens utilized extracted manuscripts and catastrophically mistranslated the text. Where the original Tibetan used the word namshe, which translates strictly to consciousness or mechanical cognition, Evans Wens substituted the word soul. By importing Abrahamic concepts into a completely different framework, he turned a forensic manual for the mind into a religious book about the afterlife. He even changed the title just for marketing purposes. But despite that massive mistranslation, Carl Jung immediately recognized the true architecture hidden inside. He observed that the terrifying deities described in the text were not external demons at all, but autonomous projections of the nervous system reacting to being deprived of sensory input. Jung saw it for what it was, an unparalleled map of exactly what the psyche does when the physical hardware stops feeding it data. Section 4. Navigating the 3 Bardos. Here is the core mechanical breakdown of the text's 49-day operational guide for the human exit, and modern neurology is actually confirming this. Massive gamma-wave surges recorded in subjects immediately after cardiac arrest align perfectly with the ancient text's claim that highly synchronized consciousness persists even after clinical death. This neurochemical event perfectly mirrors what the manual describes as the appearance of the clear light. The manual divides the exit into 3 distinct, sequential phases that demand incredibly strict navigational choices, and the entire process relies on auditory instructions read aloud by a trained guide, acting as a direct, real-time navigation system for the deceased. In the first phase, the Chik-Hai Bardo, the physical hardware fails, and you are immediately confronted with the clear light. This is your own unmasked consciousness, entirely stripped of all its social filters. The instruction here is simple: recognize this light and attain instant liberation. The problem? Because it is more blinding than the sun, most untrained minds recoil from it in absolute terror. They frantically seek familiar safety, and because of that fear, they miss the exit. If you miss the exit, you enter the Chonyid Bardo. Over the next 10 days, consciousness wakes into an environment completely devoid of filters, where every single suppressed thought becomes perceptible, undeniable reality. The mind encounters these blinding, brilliant lights of liberated wisdom while simultaneously being pulled by dull, comfortable lights back toward familiar existence.
The repeated, urgent instruction during this phase is to move toward the blinding lights and completely ignore the gravitational pull of the comfortable ones. Then, on the 8th day, a massive revelation occurs. The serene figures vanish and the terrifying skull-crowned Harukas appear. But the manual explains a crucial twist. These are exactly the same energies as the peaceful deities. They're just manifesting in their shadow form because the dying mind responded to them with fear. This exposes the core mechanism of the Bardo. Your relationship to the energy determines its form. The instruction is remarkably direct. Whatever you do, do not run. Failing that recognition, the mind enters the final stage, the Sidpa Bardo. Here, the wind of karma pulls the mental body toward a specific sensory signature for rebirth. It's important to understand that karma here is mechanical momentum, not moral judgment. It's based entirely on accumulated lifetime habits. Even here, the manual treats consciousness as an active decision-making agent right up to the very end, offering precise instructions for choosing a stable environment to return to. Section 5. The Psychedelic Misunderstanding. We have to address how the 1960s counterculture tragically flattened this profound manual. Figures like Timothy Leary and John Lennon recklessly appropriated these instructions, which were designed for permanent biological death, to map temporary LSD trips. By applying the Bardo phases to chemical ego death, they entirely erased the absolute high-stakes permanence of the actual transition. Millions of people ended up hearing these instructions embedded in pop music without ever realizing they were listening to a rigorous, literal manual for biological shutdown. Section 6. Validating Ancient Consciousness Tech. The 2026 scientific landscape is finally attempting a rigorous corrective, which brings us to a critical realization. Modern clinical protocols systematically violate every required condition laid out in the text. The manual explicitly states that the body must not be touched for days, allowing internal mechanics to naturally conclude alongside continuous auditory guidance. Instead, what do? The body is moved immediately. Cold storage and embalming chemicals are introduced, and the consciousness is left to navigate the terrifying disillusion of the ego completely blind. And this is exactly why AI models in 2026 are providing such a massive breakthrough. By analyzing digitized block prints, they are proving that the original Tibetan phonetic chants were engineered as literal acoustic signals. They are mathematically structured to physically resonate with the deepest frequencies of the human nervous system. These instructions aren't just a semantic map, they are a literal neurological signal guiding the system. Think about it. If you strip away the ego, the social mask, and the biological hardware of the body, what remains is your original face, the clear light. Every single story you have ever told about who you are is just a temporary arrangement. It's an arrangement that simply will not survive the physical shutdown. And this text serves as a 1,200-year-old argument that you do not need to be afraid of that process, provided you recognize it for what it is. The territory remains unchanged. The manual is open. The journey is exactly the same today as it was in the 8th century. The only question is whether you read the instructions before you need them. This has been Golden Gems. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep studying the sources.